One. Hello, everybody. My name is indeed Cacti Mamba, and today we are doing the Cacti Cuties podcast, volume number 3, with Power Cuties. Say hi, Power Cuties.
Hey there, welcome.
All right, perfect. So today we're going to do something really exciting. In the last episode, you heard us talk about the 3 new champions. We had a lot to talk about, even though we hadn't played them a super bunch yet. And today we're going to first be talking about the monthlies. That's right. I'm here with the monthlies wizard, in my opinion, and that is Power Cuties. And he went 70, 70, 70 for 70 again. So let's give him a round of applause.
Yay! And that is number 5 in a row. Woohoo!
Yeah, and then me on the other hand, not so fortunate.
Aw.
I got one loss. That was enough to ruin my almost streak, which I think should have been the number 70 power. But either way, it's fine. I'm not salty about it. No, maybe a little bit salty, but we don't need to talk about that. But yeah, no,
No,
it's
I mean, okay, I mean, I don't want to like put salt in any wounds, but what happened? What happened? I need to know what happened.
So, challenge number 60 happened.
Oh,
Challenge number 60 with Katarina was quite the struggle. I attempted it with Gwen at the start, and I kind of didn't pick a good enough build. I kind of was a little bit too, I was a little bit too confident going into it, and I underestimated how disgustingly strong Katarina would be. And if she didn't have the stun, I probably would have been fine. But having those constant stuns is, I think, what makes her the strongest challenge actually of this monthly. I actually think that she's a lot stronger because of that. And it felt miserable, like just watching my Nexus slowly die. Like I was just like, I can't even do anything. And then like that final rally came in, and I just like hands in face, like, no, I'm not gonna get my life steal off with Gwen and level her, and then like be fine. And yeah, that was
oh,
the
I do remember number 60. That one was brutal. I felt like there was like 3 hard ones. That one was, I think, the hardest or the second hardest, and I mean, it can easily catch you off guard for sure. I don't remember who I took. I think I wanted. I think I either went Jinx or LeBlanc. I was just like, I am
I
not
think you
messing
mentioned
around.
LeBlanc.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, LeBlanc is the one that she's my wild card. She's like, when I don't want to mess with something, I don't even do Jinx. I just go straight to LeBlanc.
I actually like my thing is I think that LeBlanc is stronger than Jinx in a lot of scenarios,
Yeah,
and like I agree with you. I think that LeBlanc is like you don't play around when you play with LeBlanc, and man, I just wish that I had gotten everything. But I mean, like, I wish I'd kind of respected that one a little bit more because I thought that I like was playing really well up until that point, and it bummed me out a little bit
yeah.
because the I was feeling a little bit more confident, which ended up being my downfall, right, in the actual the plays and stuff. But I thought that like I was like saving all of my stronger champions like super well. Like I'm probably gonna end up getting the playthrough out at some point, but it's like I didn't use like what I would consider like to be like anything like A or higher for like the longest time. I think I used like maybe a couple A or higher tiers, but like I kind of waited until like literally almost like challenge number like 60 to start using what I consider to be like the A tier champions. I was kind of just being really really smart about it all, and then I lost, and I was like, no. And I will say though, the one funny thing that I did do on this monthly is I did play ASOL in 3 of the last 4, and I did have ASOL at 4 stars when I was playing them,
Oh,
and I was able to do because I was hoping we didn't end up getting it, but I was hoping that we would get the Lissandra run for the next patch. So what I did was I won with Lissandra on the final one. And I played for the Watcher, and I got the Watcher down, and that was quite the experience.
okay. You need to put these monthlies up on YouTube because they're not up right now, and I'm missing out.
Oh, don't worry. I will definitely be getting on it.
Okay,
I'm actually
please
probably
do.
going to combine a couple to because I got other videos to make too. But yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm hoping everybody appreciates it, even though it's not like they're not actually like gonna be the Lysandra run. But it's like it's very funny because or it's like it's not like actually out yet. Obviously, it's probably coming the next month or two. But it's just like it's really funny because I was so dead set on it that I literally played the Watcher, but I also didn't think because one of the powers of the challenge was you kill all damaged units at round end. And then I actually took the buff on the Ice Shard for Lysandra that makes it do more damage, not even thinking about it, which means that it damages all of your units, including Lysandra. So I couldn't play Ice Shard on her.
Oopsie.
but Aesol's so strong I won anyways. But it was funny because like I was like there became a point where like I was waiting for myself to draw Lysandra, and I was like, draw Lysandra. No, draw Lysandra. Yeah, it was an interesting time, but I was dead set on winning with Lysandra and stuff, and it was a fun experience. I'll say I think that for my second attempt on the monthlies, like it was just as enjoyable as the first because like it was still such a learning experience, and I did put a lot of work into like leveling up some of my other like lower level champions, so I felt like I had more to choose from.
It's interesting, like what you're describing to me was almost exactly like my first couple months of monthlies as well, where you know what, if I just didn't underestimate a few significant fights, I would have hit 70. And it's just like you kind of get maybe, I don't know if you get cocky or you just don't realize how strong something is, and then it's just that one fight and it's like, I should have went with someone a little bit stronger here. And then it really is like really heartbreaking because it's like you're pretty close to the end by that point, and it's like but I mean, honestly, you're still like 139 for 140. That is nothing to be ashamed of. That's insane, dude.
Yeah, I think part of what you're talking about too, and I do appreciate that, is that I think you get more of a feel for stuff as you continue to play, because it seems like you definitely, with your much more experienced amount of time playing the monthly so far, you kind of have a little bit more of a feel for like, oh, okay, this one could be scary. This one could be a little bit like something I don't want to mess with. And also, I will say, speaking of how experienced he is, I forgot to mention this earlier. He played every single champion in this monthly. Like, I don't know if you're going to do it next time too, but like that is ridiculous. I don't know how you did it.
So, that was actually what you were saying is the perfect segue for this. And I would say, do not do this unless you are experienced in monthlies, because the only way you can really reliably get a 70/70 with playing every champion is by knowing which mutators and which champions are actually weak enough that you can play your weak champions into, because you do not want to be playing weak champions into the wrong fight. But yeah, so that was my extra challenge of the month. Somebody had suggested, hey, why don't you try a monthlies where you try every champion? And I thought about it and I was like, well, there's 49 champions, there's 70 challenges. That means I'm only like repeating like 21 champion uses. That's not a lot, and there's a lot of bad champions, but I decided to give it a go. I tried my best to get them all done in the less than 50s, obviously. And not gonna lie, there was like some scary ones. I ended up using a pike in the 40s, and I thought I was done. I thought I was dead, and I was like, why did I take on this stupid challenge? Somehow I pulled it out.
I'm a little surprised you brought up the pike so late. I know that you like.
It was an accident. I forgot to use them.
I was saying this. I was like, I think that pike can be quite strong, but the problem is that lurk is inherently random, right? So it's like you get this problem where like sometimes you're just not hitting lurk, sometimes it's just not going, and you're like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? 'Cause I'm just gonna lose, and then. Yeah.
The thing with pike in monthlies is he's not inherently the worst, but he does have a few mutators that he actually can like do stuff with. Basically, it's just stuff where he can keep killing stuff and level them quickly. But so that was my thought was like, all right, I'm not seeing anything in the 20s where I can just farm stuff and level pike. I'm not seeing anything in the 30s that I can just farm stuff and level pike. And then I'm like at like mid 40s and I'm like, oh my god, I still have a pike to use.
Personally, I think you should have saved him for challenge number 60. But lesson learned. You'll do it next time, right?
Oh boy!
Definitely don't use pike on level 60, viewers. That would be bad for your mental health there. But yeah, no, I will say one thing. I don't know if you've gotten to try out the 4-star Aesol since you've leveled them up to 4 stars. But I will say, after playing the 4-star Aesol, yeah, no, that he's broken at 4 stars, especially like it. He feels absurd at that. Like, it's kind of crazy.
I have tried him. I think I tried him for weeklies one of the weeks, and it was just like I kept forgetting that all the stats were getting doubled. I was like, why are my units so big? Ridiculously big.
Thing, right? like I forgot that too when it came to my units besides champions because I thought it was just champions. So I was like, that's
Yeah,
fair, right? You could just
yeah,
double your champion stats. That's a pretty fair thing. No, the devs decided to just double all stats because
yeah,
why not,
yeah.
right?
Why
So it's
not?
like I was kind of shocked. I was like, wait, what? Like, what about this is balanced in any stretch or form? Because it was so ridiculously OP that I was just like kind of baffled, honestly. Like I was kind of shocked at how strong it was because, like, you play like a 3-3 and now it's a 6-6, and you're like, what the heck? Like, I wasn't expecting to have this much board presence this early.
Yeah, I mean, he's. I don't even know what else to say. He's broken as
As
anything.
something. Yeah.
The one thing I wanted to say about this monthlies too was I think the other reason I was able to do that challenge was compared to other months, this month wasn't that bad actually. And I know like people don't want to hear that. They're like, "Oh, but I won 70 over 70. Don't undermine my accomplishment." And I'm not undermining anything, but I'm just saying compared to other months, I felt like there was three really really hard ones this month. 60 was one of them, but normally we have about like six really really hard ones. Like for example, we had three small stuffs last month, and we had
Yeah.
one small stuff this month, and it wasn't even that bad because they gave you the extra mana, which actually helps. It was symmetric. It was both players get extra mana, but I think that helps the player a lot more than the AI, and it wasn't even
Always.
that bad.
Yeah, I think that I was actually going to kind of go down that route too. I actually think that it was kind of interesting because, like, by the way, I think no matter what you do, if you can complete all 70 in any stretch of the form, even if you lose like 5 or 10 or whatever, I think that's impressive as is. So,
Yeah.
like, for anyone, like, if you get 70 for 70, I think that that's always impressive. So, just like keep that in mind, guys. Like, we're not ever trying to say that it's not impressive to go 70 for 70. We're just holding ourselves to a pretty high standard. But like, that's not like most people, if you can get 70 for 70, I would say that that's really really impressive. Like I don't think that it's very easy to play perfect, especially when I know that like a lot of people don't have the same collection that we do since we've been playing since the beginning, and we both love this game a lot, so we play a lot. But like, yeah, like I would definitely say that this month was definitely easier. I would say,
Yeah.
like, I was noticing that too. It's part of the reason why I felt like I was playing a lot of like I played Talia into the 40s.
Yeah.
Like
No. Yeah.
it felt fine.
Yeah. And it felt fine. Yeah. Yeah, I do want to emphasize what Cacti was saying. Just being able to clear this all 70 is impressive in itself. And people have asked me like, what's the number that you respect? Like, do you even respect a 69? Do you respect a 68? And actually, I think I told people if you can get like 65 perfects, I respect that. Like I respect that as pretty much as I respect a 70. And the reason for that is because when you're doing so many runs, when you're doing 70 runs, you're going to hit like at least 5 if not more runs where you get absolute BS hands where you don't draw your main champ, you just draw all dead draws and there's nothing you can do about it. There is just nothing you can do. And I will say like sometimes a very very high skill player is able to play out of some of those, but sometimes there's nothing you can do. Like the game is just decided, nope, we're not going to let you play the game, and that's that. And that just happens because there's 70 runs. It's a lot of runs, so just by chance, you're going to hit some bad luck. So I
Yeah,
actually do respect anyone that hits 65 or higher, like a lot. Like I think if you're doing that, you're a top tier path player, and you know what you're doing.
yeah, I think that that's one of the other things that people forget sometimes too. Is it's like this game has still had some RNG into it, right? That's what makes
Yep.
it beautiful. That's what makes it a fun card game, and it's like that's why I think that it can be tough because it's like, well, even though you struggle every once in a while with things like that, it's like and it can be a bummer because maybe you lose a couple because of it. It's still perfectly normal. Like, and the other thing too is it's like nobody's gonna be perfect on every single run, anyways. That's just not how this works. You know what I mean?
Somebody's
Like,
perfect for 5 in a row. Just saying.
well, I don't consider you in the same realm as other people, CactiCuties. So I think that we can kind of leave you in your own tier here. You know, uh,
I'm playing in the wizard realm.
yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, as what I would consider the wizard of the monthlies, I have a lot of respect for you in that regard because it's kind of interesting because like I've played a lot of the adventure runs, but man, I'll watch you play the monthlies, and I'm like, he just knows things that I don't, when it comes to like different things that you're looking for, and it's like, so I consider myself to still be one of the people, and you're just on that pedestal over there, just waving like, it's just your 5 gold medals for 70 for 70, and I'm just like, all right, like,
There's somebody else that's on a pedestal that we haven't mentioned and definitely needs to be mentioned, and that is a big congratulations to Yuzun for hitting number 1. And I actually do put Yuzun on a pedestal because if you've watched him play, this guy is an animal. He plays so fast that I don't even know what he's doing half the time, but he's making the right plays. So clearly his brain just functions on a higher level. Like, this guy is a machine. It's amazing.
it's actually so cool because like it's funny for me too because I like it was like during my actual monthly run where I was like looking at stuff and I started playing like right at 12 a.m. right like I started playing like once everything dropped and I was like doing my runs and I was feeling pretty good and I'm kind of like explaining things as I kind of go along, taking a couple breaks here or there, and I just slowly see Yuzun just slowly getting higher and higher and higher than what mine was at, and I'm just like, this guy's just going so much faster. Like, what the heck, like, but yeah, it was really cool to see him just slowly like ascend, and the fact that he was able to complete the run, like, and people will see this. It starts at 12 a.m. my time, and he finished at 6:30, like basically, right? So it took him 6.5 hours to finish this run. That is disgusting. Like that is like the next person that finished took 9.5. Like he took 3 less hours to complete his run. Like that's disgusting. Like that. Like I don't see anybody else doing that. Like it's such a fast run.
It really is mind-boggling. Like, I mean, I know I'm not the fastest player, but I do kind of try to play fast, and my best monthlies are 12 to 14 hours. So he's doing it half the time I'm playing it. I don't even know how he can do this physically. It's so crazy.
Yeah, I was gonna say is I think the one thing that's really like interesting about him as a player is he just like there's times where like I feel like I play pretty quickly and I'll make decisions like pretty quickly and on the fly, but like occasionally my brain decides to have a complete lapse in judgment right whenever I make a play. I was actually going to talk about that in whenever we talk about our next topic, but it's like it's kind of funny because it's like I do that sometimes, and I totally admit that. But like, it doesn't feel like he does that as often. You know what I mean? It just seems like he just kind of has a grasp on it, and it's just like to be able to play that fast and basically be mistake free is just not very common. Like you just like a lot of people need that time to really think something out, even if they're making the right play. Sometimes it takes a bit, and like he make a good blitz chess player. Like he just
Yeah.
he just knows what he's doing.
No, it actually that's a good analogy. So there's some stuff in Path that is very reflexive that you can actually play pretty quickly. There's some decks where you just have to curve. Like I feel like even like Jacks, like you just curve out, keep swinging, and you don't really have to do too much thinking and decision making. But watching Yu Zun, like there's times where he's like, he's playing champs that actually have a lot of decision points, and he can play them reflexively, and I can't, and it really does blow my mind. I'm like, I need to actually like think about this for a while, and he's just playing cards, and winning, and it's like, holy crap.
Yeah. Shake my head at the kids these days, right? No, but he's just yeah, he's really impressive. I really enjoy seeing how well he does it and how fast he does it. I think that's really the really impressive point, and I'm glad to see him back on top because I know he wasn't feeling that great after going.
Same,
He,
because
he was the one that failed one last month, so yeah, it's good to see him back.
so he deserves it, and it's also heartbreaking because similar to you, I think it was his losses were just underestimating opponents, not even making misplays. He just underestimated opponents. Like that's hard, right? It's like like you almost feel better like if you made a misplay and you could blame yourself, but it's like, oh yeah, I just didn't realize that opponent was stronger than I anticipated.
I think that the tough part about something like that is you did misplay whenever you do something like
You
that.
do, yeah,
You just misplayed before you even started the adventure. So it's like you
exactly,
basically put yourself at a disadvantage before you even started. It's like trying to
yeah,
box but you have oven mitts on, right?
yeah,
It's like you
yeah,
kind of just made the mistake and now you've just got to own it and just
yeah,
watch yourself lose. And
yeah.
it's like, and those are the ones where it feels kind of bad, but it's just like there's not much you can do about it. And it's like I've kind of just like it's one of those things where you kind of just have to move on and learn for the next month. But it's
Yep.
just like every once in a while, it's just like you're gonna make your mistakes, you're gonna underestimate things, but I agree. I think that like misplays feel a lot worse whenever you feel like you didn't really have as much like agency in playing it. Whereas like if you make a mistake on your own, you're like, dang, I made a mistake, but like at least I can learn from it. I know what to think next time,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah. Okay. I think that kind of wraps up this December monthlies pretty well. What is our next topic? I don't even know. I've lost
Well,
track.
we beat the monthlies on the head, but now we need to talk about the absolute gift that the legend Dan Felder left for us, and that is
Oh.
the Thresh, the new Thresh
Ooh.
changes. And I will say, for people who don't understand what Thresh has been changed to, he is disgusting now. That this man is like legitimately, he went from being the worst champion in Path of Champions by far, like bar none,
Mm.
to I would actually say like a pretty good tier. Like I
Yeah.
think that he's fine. Like the fact that it not only is it now all units 9 rather than just his own units 9
Mm-hmm.
changes him a ton. And then on top of that, the fact that all of the buffs are on one unit every single turn changes him a ton. And then also they also changed the star 2 power to make it so that Thresh costs 1 less for each ally that has died, not for each ally that has been slain, which is also huge. So he's gotten 3 buffs in just his like all of his star powers that make him absurd. And I actually really like him. So I know that you already had him at level 30
Mm-hmm.
before the new run, but I have to tell you, as someone who is still leveling up his champions just a little bit, I have a few to level up. I didn't level up Thresh. And I'm pretty sure I can't remember exactly what level it was. I think it was a pretty low level though. I think it was like level 7 or something like that, or maybe it was even like level 4. It was like level 7 or level 4. I only had a cosmic pearl on this man, and I would have beaten Asol if I didn't have a brain like just a complete brain like just gap in my judgment and not just played both atrocities. But I would have beaten Asol with like a level 7 Thresh,
Mm-hmm.
which is crazy. You would have never been able to do that before the changes.
He's super strong now. I'm really happy about the not just that they're buffing him, but that they're actually trying to balance some of these weak champions. Thank you, Dan Felder. By the way, that was his last wish on leaving Riot was to give Thresh a buff, and it did actually happen quite quickly. Yeah, I'm just looking at my tier list. So, for example, on my monthly tier list, Thresh was F. Actually, I think he was the bottom of F. Like that's how bad he was. And now I have him placed on C, which okay maybe doesn't sound that great, but it's a jump of 3 tiers, and
I'd say that's a huge jump.
he's kind of in the Elise, Yumi, Neela, Volibear tier. Like it's a pretty good tier. So like I think he's way better. It really is night and day. He actually is putting pressure. He's actually got early game, and he actually has like a really strong win con just in building up this huge unit. I wanted to ask how you are playing him. Like, how are you building him?
Well, I was actually going to say, so again, I was talking about, like how we recently got a new rare relic, which is Wicked Harvest.
Yep.
Fantastic on Thresh. Absolutely fantastic.
Yep.
I love this relic on him because not only does it kill your own units, it kills their units. It's pretty rare that it feels like Wicked Harvest does nothing to like any of their units. Obviously, Asol's a bit of an exception, but Asol's disgusting. So, like, what are you going to do about how like he summons champions that double like their stats every single turn? There's ways to deal with those in general. But I think Disciple is a really good pick if you have the ability to have
Hmm.
Disciple, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think Succubus's brand is also really good on him
Interesting.
because
Okay.
it creates more unit deaths, which are really good. And I've been kind of building him like that. I haven't had a lot of time to test him at level 30 because I did use the Pearl on him. So I kind of jumped really quickly to the level 30 mark because I used a greater Pearl on him. But yeah, no, he feels really good. I think there's multiple different ways you can play him. I don't think you need Carapace on him though. Like I know some
Hmm.
people were talking about using Carapace and stuff. I don't think that's
I
necessary
feel
for
like
him
that's
because of
redundant.
yeah, I was gonna say I think it's redundant considering his power. Like it's
Yeah.
not always gonna go to Thresh, but like he
Yeah.
feels fine,
Yeah.
like with where he is. And the fact that like I know that you don't necessarily need the cost reduction of Disciple, but I just like it anyways because not only does it kill your own units, but like it just feels good. Like if you can get him out a little bit faster, that way you can see all of his units die faster. Very pleasing to the eye. But like in general, I think that that's one of the ones that I would say. I would also say that I am going to end up probably testing out Oath on him. I actually really want to test out
Hmm.
Oath. I think that's going to be a pretty good one on him too, especially more so in monthlies than adventures. I think that's where Oath will shine more. I think Disciple is going to shine a little bit more in the adventures for him because it allows him to play himself quicker, and you're already going to have more of a pick up the litter for champions. You know, like I was playing him with Swain with the Wicked Harvest or Disciple of Shadows, and Swain with Wicked Harvest feels so good. Like
I mean,
it is disgusting.
he's
Like
just insta leveled.
yeah, I was gonna say that's why like I'm thinking like if they do add Swain to Path of Champions as a playable character for us, Wicked Harvest is gonna be like an S tier pick for him
Yeah.
because it's like Wicked Harvest, like he was literally like I wouldn't ever play Swain, and then the moment I would attack with Thresh, I would get at least one Swain on the board, leveled every time. There was never a time where he wasn't leveled, and which is insane. Like it's pretty like a lot of the times it feels like whenever you play Thresh, your champions aren't always going to level just because you pull them out on the board.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not with Swain, not with that build. Pretty good. Uh,
Okay, I need to tell you about my Thresh build because I
sure, I
really
want to hear
like
it.
it, and I think it builds on your build. So I do like Wicked Harvest on him. I mean, it's just insane. It's like you're not losing any value when you kill your own units because you're just gonna stack those buffs on and keywords on your other unit, and you're probably just wiping out everything they have at the same time. So it's just fantastic. But the thing that I really, 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 really like on Thresh is Hymn of Valor. So getting the redoubled valor, because what ends up happening is you drop the Thresh, you kill everything basically. You're probably killing like if not four, like maybe 8 units at a time. You're gonna get this massive buff at the end of turn, and then you double it up. And there's a very high chance that you probably are giving that unit overwhelm or elusive, or at the very least brash or fearsome. You're giving it some sort of evasion. So doubling it up, you just win the game. You win the game the next turn. It's not even like it's not even a problem. And now that Thresh is actually getting a lot of discounts, you're probably playing Thresh for about 3 mana, and then you're just winning the next turn after that. So that's what I highly recommend is Wicked Harvest with him. And then the third one that I use is I'm not sure it's Flex, but I'm kind of using Banshee's Veil just because when you do the Wicked Harvest, you're pretty much killing everything else. So pretty much all the buffs are landing on the Thresh. So you might as well protect him at that point. But I don't know if you necessarily need Banshees, especially for monthlies. You probably don't need the Banshees. But Wicked
Well,
Harvest plus him.
well, as we know, I actually really like that build. I think, as you know, obviously with Asol, he has a lot of removals, so you have to be really careful, and
Yeah,
that's why I think Spell Shield's really good on him.
yeah,
But I actually think like a good flex if you're not worried about him getting removed is Brand with the second versus Brand,
that
just
makes
because
sense. Yeah,
the husks just generate more slaves. Which if like maybe you don't kill everything,
yep.
you're probably killing everything immediately after. Like even if you just kill your own units and you get 3 units to die, well now you've got 3 husks, right? And that means that the next unit you play you're leveling Thresh. So it's really really strong. And I think that the other thing that's really really interesting that we're kind of like weaving into a little bit is like this Wicked Harvest pick kind of feels made for Thresh in a way. Like it's kind of perfect for him. And I like how like not only did we get the buff for Thresh, but like then we
A
also
relic.
just get
Yeah,
a relic that like literally feels like there's other champions it's going to be good on too, but
yeah,
like Thresh is one of the ones that it feels fantastic on.
yeah, yeah. I haven't used it on anyone else, but I am trying to theory craft some things. Have you thought of any other champs you want to try the Wicked Harvest on?
Well, that's the thing, right? Is it's like I played it on Mordekaiser. I think it feels fine on him, but it just
Mm,
doesn't feel like absurd or anything like that, you know? I don't the tough thing is that there's not a lot of champions that purposely want to do damage to everything else on the board. You know, like and that's the thing that makes it really tough because it's just like not like there's not a lot of champions that necessarily see value from it. I mean, like you could argue somebody like Folly Bear might not be a bad pick for it, but
mm-hmm.
like I just think he has better relics, you know, that kind of go with him a little bit that are a little bit more. But it does do a lot of damage. That's the thing, right? Is it's like it does do a lot of damage to everything around him. So it's like if you were looking to level up Volibear a little bit faster, it might be good.
Well, yeah,
But
that's what I'm asking is like champs that will level up off the effect. So champs that I'm looking at, this is completely untested, but I'm debating maybe even Gwen, maybe even Master Yi, maybe LeBlanc. LeBlanc would be very interesting with it as well. I'm trying to theory craft some things, but I have not tested any of these out. But I really want to test some of these out.
I was gonna say, is like LeBlanc would be really interesting
Oh,
because
Pike
like
is the
for
other one too.
oh
Pike actually
Pike
could be
is
insane.
also
Yeah.
yeah, well, true, because the damage does come from the champion. Actually,
That's correct.
Pike would be really good with that. You could
Pike would
go
be really
double.
good with this.
Yeah,
Yes.
I actually didn't even think about that because like because that was one of the things that they changed with Disciple, which then they then moved to the Wicked Harvest. They also made that available for it as well. Is that the damage comes from the champion themselves,
That's
right? So like
correct.
you could even argue that Nasus would be another good one because of
Yep.
that,
Yep.
as well,
Yep.
because it's just like they're all coming from that champion, and so it becomes really interesting because like Pike right now, my build is literally just 3 Stalker's Blades, so I could
Yep.
definitely weave in a single Wicked Harvest. The only thing I will say though that would feel bad with somebody like Pike is that it is a play effect. So
Yep.
because of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
fact that it's a
Yeah.
play effect, you're
Yeah.
not going to get it off of his his power.
Yeah.
But realistically, if you're using his death from below, then you're probably already doing enough damage as is.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a give and a take where it's like, okay, if I don't have that, you get the extra damage on top of it. So I like that a lot actually. I like the Pike pick. There's a few like you mentioned LeBlanc. I think LeBlanc is really interesting. I'm kind
Yeah.
of addicted to Oath on her, but I think that that's going to be another really good option too. Is having the Wicked Harvest. So I think you're kind of getting some good theory crafts going
Yeah,
for it.
this again, this is all theory craft. I haven't actually tested any of these, and a lot of these champions have very good builds, like LeBlanc. That it's hard to argue like playing this over their other builds. But I mean, the thing with monthlies is it's kind of nice to have alternate builds for some champions because not every like it's like a puzzle, right? It's like not every key opens every lock in monthlies. So it is actually nice to have potential alternate builds for some champs.
Oh yeah, and I can definitely I like where your thinking is going there, and I think that this bridges really well into the fact that there were some new other changes besides just the monthlies and all the champions as well as the thresh changes. We got a massive buff for something that definitely needed buffs to make them feel a lot more epic. That's right, a lot more epic because they're epic relics. We finally got changes to the epic relics. We can kind of go down the list here, but why don't you talk about some of the ones that you actually have? Have you felt the changes on them yet? How do you feel about them?
I really like your epic relic epic segue. I like how you slid that in there. Um, so I have 3 epic relics and all of them seem so much stronger. The one that I'm having a lot of fun with is actually Echoing Spirit. So Echoing Spirit used to just give you 7 copies of the champion in your deck. Now those champion spells all of a sudden cost 1 less. There is so much potential here. I want to try this with Diana. I want to try this with Annie. Like, I mean, also, like, the other thing that if you're going to use Echoing Spirit, you use GGC as well. And, like, it's just, it can get bananas. Like,
Kind of a must.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you use GGC together with Echoing Spirit. Like, I mean, like something like Diana, where you're using the Pale Cascade. It's 1 mana +1/+1, draw a card, and add a rare item to Diana. Like the value on that is insane. And if you
And it's
put
a
GGC,
Nightfall
you're
proc.
doing it. Yeah, and it's a Nightfall proc. And if you have GGC, you're doing this every single turn. It's just bananas. So like it seems like such a small thing. Champion spells cost 1 less, but it's actually so massive. The other thing that it also does that I don't see anybody talking about online is Master Yi just got a lot easier to go infinite, by the way, because
Oh, good point. Yeah.
yeah, like you basically only need Spellslinger now to go infinite. You don't even need like two discounts. You basically only need Spellslinger to go infinite with Yi, which is bananas as well. And there's just a lot of other champions where they have it's generally the ones that either have a item attached with them. So for example, Morgana would be interesting because her Dark Binding with the star chart, now you're only paying 2. Or just spells that are cheap. Like I want to test it on Annie because Disintegrate all of a sudden becomes 0 mana, which is crazy. Like, yes, I would like to kill things for free. That would be fantastic.
Personally, I think Echoing Spirit's best pick is Mordekaiser, obviously, because you want to play a bunch of 9-cost spells every turn. Right? Come on, like, yeah, don't play that on Mordekaiser.
Um, Other ones that I've heard of that I haven't tried yet was people are really liking it on Echo. I think that one's a bit interesting because basically they're trying to like create more copy because the Echo basically comes with wild inspiration, right? So now you're
Hmm.
creating more copies of champions and you're creating more copies of the champion spells. So they're basically double discounted, which is kind of really interesting.
It's interesting. I think the one thing that it's like a little counterintuitive with Echo is like you're not necessarily wanting to constantly predict Echo though. I think that's the one thing that like
I do agree
is
with that, and that's the
yeah.
that's what I was thinking as well. Like people are saying that that's not really a problem. Like it's good, but I want to practice. Like I want to see that in practice. I actually want to test it out before
I want to
I'm
see
sold.
the proof in the pudding. I'm
Yeah.
not just ready to just kind of like go out and kind of
But I mean,
say that that
in
one's good.
theory, like you literally are double dipping on the discount. Like it's pretty
Yeah.
good. It's pretty damn good. Um, what was the other one? I forget now. But yeah, Echoing Spirit, really interesting. Found Fortune is another one that I have. So that one
It's a
is
huge buff. Huge buff.
draw the highest cost card in your deck, less than the base cost of this of the champion. So it used to be any card, and now it's highest card. This is a massive buff, as Cacti was saying, because you can predict the card you are drawing, and this is when this effect becomes insane. Drawing a random card is not that good, and it's not just because you might draw one drop. I don't even care about that. It's because it's RNG, and it's like, well, I don't want to draw a card that may or may not help me. I want to know what card I'm getting. If I know the card I'm getting, I can play around that, and I can actually like plan my turns ahead. It's a massive buff.
Keep in mind this is the higher than their base cost. By the way, this is
Mm-hmm.
less than the base cost of the
Yep.
champion, which means that anything that has good cost reduction on the actual champions, perfect,
Yep.
so good. It's such a good buff. I'm actually really impressed with it. I really wasn't expecting it to be like this good. Like I haven't played it obviously because I don't have the epic relic, but like I'm excited for it. Like it seems like that, and then also getting like the epic item and everything just seems so good. Like I'm really excited for like some of these ones that felt like why would you ever play this over a rare relic because like they're just not as like good like as a rare relic even it just feels really weird because it's like epic relic should be better, right? And it kind of goes into something I wanted to talk about real quick because I'm curious to see how you think about it. But like I know you would express some like feelings of like I don't know how it why you would necessarily want to make like pack powder, for example.
Yep.
Now is Sturge's stash plus having the +1/+1 for
Yep.
each different round you damage enemy nexus. I think that's fine. I because like we've seen iterations of common relics that become better as they become rare relics, and I'm okay with that also being true for epics. I actually like that a lot
Yep.
because it fits with the power scaling of these relics. Like that's how it's supposed to be. The relics are supposed to be
Better.
better
Yeah.
versions, or maybe they're also unique in certain ways, but like they're supposed to be better than their predecessors, right? Like that's why it feels so worth it to play epic relics. It doesn't mean that the relics that you use as a rare aren't good. They're just not as good.
It's funny because I was actually going to mention Pack Powder because that's the only other epic I have. So it's just like you said. So Pack Powder used to be Plunder. I cost one less and +1/+1 for damage each round of enemy nexus. Now I cost two less with the Plunder. So basically, it is exactly like Scourge's Stash with upside, and it's interesting. So now basically the pack powder is you're going to use it anytime you would have just been using Scourge's Stash in the past, which is really funny because I never thought I was going to be opening up an epic relic slot for Jinx.
I was gonna say, by the way, that makes Jinx absurdly strong because the thing
Like,
that was really interesting about her was that she kind of needed something like that to make her a late game like a lot stronger, right?
exactly. No, that's actually true. Um, but I haven't been playing around with it too much just because I feel like I know what it's gonna do. Like it's just gonna be better Scourge's Stash. Like I know what Scourge's
Yeah.
Stash does, and I know what unit buffs do, so I kind of know what it's gonna do. So I haven't really been testing it that much. But it is interesting. It is interesting that they're basically making an upgraded version of a strictly better version of a rare relic. I'm not against it. I don't want them to do it too much because then it is going to feel almost pay to win because it's like, oh, I have the epics and you don't, so I'm better than you. Like I don't want it to happen too much, but I like for something like this where it's very niche. Scourge's Stash is a very niche relic. I think that's totally fine.
I was actually going to point out that one of the favorite ways that I've seen it done so far is Disciple versus Wicked Harvest, right?
Mm.
there's a bit of a payoff between the two. So Disciple, if people don't know, deal 3 to all of your allies, but for each ally that is in play, you cost 1 less whenever you play your champion. Whereas Wicked Harvest, you just deal 3 to everything. So you deal
Yeah.
3 to everything except the other, both Nexuses and your own champion. That's the only thing that don't get damaged by the 3 damage. And it's a very interesting trade off for, like,
Yep.
do you want to deal 3 to every other unit on the board that's on the enemy board? Or would you rather get your champion out faster?
I think they play very differently.
Yeah.
Like very differently, because I feel like Disciple, like you're really playing it for the mana reduction. You're not really playing it
Yes.
so much for the damage. That's just secondary. Because if you put it on something like a Yumi, the other part doesn't even happen. You're just playing it for the mana reduction, right?
Oh yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. Is like it's actually funny because it means that like something like sometimes Wicked Harvest is still better than like Disciple for somebody like Thresh, which makes it
Absolutely.
really interesting to me because I kind of like it that because he already has the
I,
the mana reduction
I
anyways.
don't have Disciple, but I would use Wicked Harvest over Disciple on Thresh. I think it is
Yeah,
better. Yeah.
that's what I was gonna say. Is like I think that I sometimes I use Disciple anyways just because I like to use Disciple,
Yep.
but it's like I don't necessarily think that's his strongest build. You know, is it's like, and I like that. I like how like you kind of have to think about it because it's like they have similar effects, but they're not the exact same. But one change I will say that I definitely do like is, but even though I do think now this is going to be the strongest or one of the strongest epics
I
in
know
the
what you're
game,
saying.
is the Beast Within, and it's important
You
to talk.
surprised me because that's the one I wanted to say.
Yeah. Well, the Beast Within, the one thing I do want to mention off the bat is when we're going to talk about a power like Beast Within or an epic like Beast Within, there is a new keyword for
Yep.
relics now, which is power. When the game
Yep.
starts, gain a power with this effect.
Yep.
So anytime you see an epic relic with that effect, that means that it's a power. It's not attached to the champion, where it's like one of those things that kind of like emits from the champion. It just happened at the start of the game. And power was probably one of the biggest buffs in terms of wording to multiple relics. It's actually kind of insane. And one of those was the Beast Within because it's literally Troll King's Crown, except the champion does not need to be in play. It is insane. And then also, if the units have subtypes, they get +1/+1,
It,
which is
it,
just an
it,
added
it
bonus.
is literally the crush power.
Yes.
Yeah.
Except you don't need your champion on the board, which means that for champions that are more expensive, or
Yeah.
maybe you don't necessarily need to have on the board to win, this is a huge buff. And I actually think that it's kind of insane because I like how they're starting to go away from like some of the rare. Like it feels like a lot of the rare relics are more like you have to have your champion in play to feel their
Yep.
effects.
Yep.
Whereas with epic relics, you don't necessarily have to have your champion in play to have the
Yep.
effects, which I like. I
Yep.
like how there's kind of this distinct difference between the two,
Yep.
and I genuinely think that this is going to make it's going to be one of the most played and also one of the strongest epics. Like the Beast Within feels like it's going to be absurd. I have not actually gotten the pleasure of unlocking it yet, but I genuinely think it's going to be
Yeah.
strong.
I also don't have it, and I agree with you 100%. Fun fact, I'm pretty sure this is true, but you know how it's a power? I think you can actually trade it into the incisive tactician node.
Do you know what rarity it is on the powers?
I'm
An
pretty sure
epic, I
it's
think,
literally
right?
just crush. But so the funny thing is with Starforged, because it actually gives you mana flow, you can trade it in for a legendary power.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm pretty sure that they're actually. I don't know if that one's Crush or not, but I know for a fact that Starforge is an epic one. And it's kind
Yeah.
of interesting because whenever I was playing with Starforge, I think now it doesn't show as mana flow. I think it actually shows as like Starforge gauntlets. Like I think it's like it's separate now. It's kind of
Oh, did they
interesting.
change it? Okay, but I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
I'm pretty sure you can trade it in as incisive tactician, which is funny.
Well, yeah, actually, why don't I? Well, as we're talking about stuff, why don't you talk about another epic relic, and I can go and test it real quick.
So
Actually.
the epic relic I thought you were going to mention because you love this one is Oath of Guardians. I can't believe you didn't mention Oath of
Oh, I
Guardians.
was going to talk about that one too.
So Cacti loves this one. I don't have it. I wish I did because it's so cool. Oath of Guardians is play your champion and then shuffle 5 level 2 champions into your deck and double their stats. That's the old effect. The new effect is and draw one of them. Holy moly! You just get a doubled champion in hand off the bat. Like that's so crazy.
It's so much better. I like. Also, by the way, before we continue talking about it, I just confirmed. It is actually its own power now. So you would be
Yeah.
trading in the Titanic effect too, as well as the Invoke and Manifest with all
Okay.
those champions. But it's really interesting. I like that they did that
Yeah.
because technically it's its own power now because I was just kind of checking out. I thought I'd, literally just run ASOL through and real quick and just check it. But yeah, no, that's how it does it. And I like that. But anyways, back to Oath. Oath is,
Yeah.
I love it. I have not gotten the chance to test it yet, but it's going to be strong. I already know it's going to be
I
strong.
mean, it was strong before. It just
Yes.
got
Well,
way
that's the thing
better.
too. Well, that's the thing with it is it that the one thing that limited Oath for a while, that even though I still liked Oath, the one problem was is that Oath felt like, um, if you didn't get the and with Oath it was really weird because it was like if you didn't have something that could potentially draw the champions or had some effect that made it worthwhile, even if you didn't draw the champions, it felt like it wasn't that worth it. That's why like
Hmm.
even
Hmm.
though they were good, it wasn't great on champions that didn't have it. So it was like Echo was a great example of
Hmm.
like somebody who could finally kind of like find them.
Hmm.
LeBlanc was good just because LeBlanc worked on her own, even if she didn't get them.
Hmm.
And then I also liked it on Nyla just because you had a lot of draw to get them. But
Okay.
now, interesting thing on Nyla is that you can actually get an extra draw with this card, which is actually really interesting. So not only does it you're getting a champion, which you want anyways, you actually get another draw for free on
Yeah.
her, which is gets her level up faster, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, this is the one epic I really really want because I think it's the most fun and
It's the most fun. Yeah.
it just became so much stronger. Holy.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
what were you gonna say?
So no, I was no, you go ahead. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say I was like out of all of them, I actually think that that was one of the biggest buffs. Like that wasn't like necessarily like people were noticing. I think
Yeah.
so. We talked about Oath a little bit, right? The other three that I have besides Oath are Disciples, which just got no changes, and it didn't need any.
Yeah,
Disciples
I
is
mean,
fine where it
it's
is.
honestly it was the strongest, and it still is the
It's
strongest,
top three.
or one of the top three for sure.
I was gonna say it's got to be top three. There's no way around it. And then I think Oath we obviously just talked about. I love the fact that they changed that slightly. Starforged, the only thing that changed is now it's a power
Yeah,
instead of it being connected to the
I don't think
champion.
that changes much for
But
that one
it doesn't
specific.
literally change
Yeah,
anything.
yeah,
So it's just as strong as before.
yeah,
And then the other one that I had that I actually really like to change up was Portal Pals.
yeah,
Portal Pals, the biggest change. It's not a huge change, but it actually feels pretty good.
yeah.
I haven't really gotten too much time to test it, but the fact that you get to create two random instead of one random 7+ cost unit from your
Hmm.
region to reduce cost by your base cost is huge. Like the fact that you get two free cards, like for example, right? I'm really going to be kind of curious to see it on Elder Dragon because you get
Yeah.
two 7+ cost units that will guaranteed be costing zero because that thing is literally 12 mana at the start of the game. And so you're guaranteed to have that, and then you're going to get two free units to play after you play the Elder Dragon down. It's going to be so absurd. Like this is something that like legitimately is going to be so strong because you have the chance to actually have like two cards where it's like even if one isn't that good, you probably will have a good second one, right? And I think that that's something that was like interesting in the past where it was like there was once that I got the I got an Asol because I was playing it on Kane. So I got Asol because Kane technically is a Targon region from his
Hmm.
deck,
Hmm.
which I thought was funny. But it's you're not gonna get that very often. But now you have double chances to get on Kane with
Yeah.
Asol, huh? Yeah, like it's a little bit.
I don't have this one. I had watched people playing it, and it kind of felt bad before because there are some high cost bricks where it's just like
Yes,
this doesn't really help me at all. So now that you're getting two cards, it's very unlikely that they're both going to be bricks. Like you're probably going to get minimum of one good card, if not two.
it is a very RNG dependent power still, but it's a
Yeah,
lot. It feels a lot better than before, which I like. It's something
yeah.
that it's I'm interested to play around with more. I think the other relics that neither of us have that I kind of just want to talk about real quick. Spirit of the Buru, huge
Hmm.
buff. It instead of it being attached to champion, allies that cost one or less, which was not there before. It was only allies that costed one before. Now it's one or less. Have overwhelm, quick attack, and fury. Obviously, the best one that this is going to be on is Poro King because that gives him three keywords off the bat, which probably means he's going to get his buffs very, very fast. But it's going to be good on other characters too. And I would also say that the other one that got like the biggest buffs that we don't have is Chosen by the Stars. A little less thematically accurate now that they added augment to it. So before it was just faded and
Yeah.
then empower 10, overwhelm, regen, challenger. Now it's faded and augment, which makes a lot of sense because
Yeah.
now it allows you to buff a
to
little
get
bit more
to get
consistently.
the empowered easier. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I like that a lot. I
Yeah.
actually think that augment's a fantastic change. I
Yeah.
think that balances it out quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then the only other buff to epics that we haven't talked about, it's not the biggest buff in the world, but it's just a nice quality of life buff. Is Death's Foil, because
Hmm.
you get an extra one attack.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's not the biggest buff in the world. I don't think it game changes everything on
No.
it. It's not
Yeah.
like we just unlocked a whole new realm, but like, it still feels pretty good. I
Yeah.
think that it's one of those things that it's going to be good on the champions that it was on before, and it just feels a little bit more epic.
Yeah.
It's not, you're not
That's
really
what I
gaining
was
too
thinking.
much.
Like, I actually feel
Yeah.
like that was one of the weakest epics before, and I think it still is one of the weaker ones. But it feels better. At least it does. Like, honestly, before you could have called it a rare, and I don't think that would have even like people would be playing it. Whereas now it feels a little bit more epic.
Yeah, I think that there were some champions that would still go with it, and
Hmm.
it's like, and I understand why they want to put it as an epic, because the fact that you can't take damage or die while attacking is a very strong effect.
Yeah.
But the problem is it was just like there was just not the same bonus on some champions that you felt like there actually would be. But I like where they kind of put it now, and I'm kind of excited to see what people do with it with a little bit of an extra buff. Like, and the crazy thing is that that buff actually could win you games. Like that's the one interesting thing
Yeah.
is like it's that one attack could be the difference between
It's
winning or losing a game.
I'm gonna tell you something.
Um,
It's not the buff I was hoping it would get. I was hoping that it was gonna get the buff that when I'm attacking, I can't take damage or die, and I get a spell shield, because it can still get stunned and it can still get silenced. Um, but
I
I
think that
mean,
the best one would just be to say, "And I can't get silenced." I think that's
yeah,
probably, but I don't know if that would make him too strong.
I don't
That's
think
the
so.
one.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either, and I think
Yeah.
that that's why, like, I would
I
hope.
mean, I want it to feel like epic. I want it to feel like, yeah, this is a lot better than any rares.
The only other thing that I would wish to see, if it's not going to be or silenced, like as like an addition to the keyword, so I'd like to see it be for the entire round. That would be something that I would also be okay with. Like
That
when you
that might
attack,
actually be like
I can't
broken.
take damage or die for the round, because
That
like
that might
that
be broken.
would feel. Well, I was gonna say, well, that's what an epic's supposed to be, right? Is an epic kind
Yeah.
of supposed to be
No, you're
broken?
not wrong.
And I
Yeah.
so it's like I don't mind it if it's like, okay, you can still stun me, you can still silence me, but if you stun me and then you try to do damage to me, you can't. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just like you can't kill me, you can't do damage, and I think that would make it feel a little bit better. It still wouldn't. I still don't think it would be OP at that point, to be honest, because it's
No.
like there's still other better relics. Like that's the thing is, it's
Yeah.
like I still think, like, if you're looking at the tippity top of relics right now,
Yeah.
Disciples up there.
Yeah.
I think the Beast Within made a huge jump to
Yeah.
the top. I think it's one of the top two,
Yeah.
maybe top three. And then I think that Starforge
Starforge.
still is sitting pretty
For
good,
sure.
pretty up there. I
And
think that it's
I think Oath of Guardians is just a hair below. I really
I
do.
think they're top five.
Like,
Yeah, I
Oath
think
of
they're probably
Guardians
four.
getting a champion in hand is crazy. It's crazy good. It's so I can't wait to get this one.
So yeah, I think the more fun part about Oath is that not only did it get the like the draw thing, but it's just like in it before it was already like the most fun relic, but now it really is the most fun relic, because now you're guaranteed to get some random level up champion that you can just have a bunch of fun with. I think that it's just like it makes it feel even better, and it's like, Oath might not be the strongest of all the relics, but it's definitely are going to be our favorite of all the relics. I think it's like, because it's just there's just something so fun about being able to play, like getting so much variance from game to game. That's going to be like ridiculous. And also, I actually think because of Oath, there is an argument when challenges get tougher that you would play that on ASOL too. I don't think that you necessarily need to now because of how strong ASOL is, just as is. But I think when challenges get tougher, and maybe you're using 2 or 3 epics, you might play Oath. Because
Yeah.
then you're getting quadruple stacks on the champions, because it's basically double Black Cleaver.
Yeah. 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 There's this game theory where because a lot of people don't like variance all that much, and like obviously this has a lot of RNG and variance associated with it, but there is a game theory where as you're increasing difficulty, The counter to that for the player is to increase variance, basically to increase the amount of low end and the amount of high end, and then kind of hoping that you roll that high end. And because of that, that actually means that for something like what maybe Freljord might be like really, really, really crazy hard, that you may actually want to use Oath and just try to see if you can high roll some champions to try to beat it.
Yeah, I think that that would be like a really, really cool, like kind of addition. You know, is like to kind of see if Oath honestly starts to become really strong on some of these like really, really hard, like especially adventure runs where you need that extra like little like maybe you get a little lucky, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe you're playing, you're like, well, maybe I just pull Galio, you know, and then like I'm feeling pretty good, you know. So it's like I'm gonna be kind of curious to see, and like it also gives you some really interesting synergy with Found Fortune as well. I'm actually really excited to kind of see how that works because, like, I'm pretty sure if you put Oath and then Found Fortune in, what will happen is you get the play effect of Oath, which means that you'll play the 5 champions in your deck, you get one back, but then maybe you get a second champion with an epic
Yep.
item attached to it and
Yep.
doubled stats. You know what I mean? And it's
Yep.
like that could be a really fun addition, you know, especially if you have a more expensive costing champion. Like if you have like, you know, a pretty high like, you know, cost, like you were talking like 4 or higher, you know, 7 cost or higher. Like if you have something like that, you're pretty much guaranteed to draw a really expensive champion if you get that in the combo. So I'm excited to see where like there's going to be some epic relics as people slowly start to kind of get more epic relics. Like these combos are going to kind of start to come out a little bit more than they are right now because right now most people I think either have 4 or less. I think that's kind of the number, and so that makes it really hard to kind of talk a lot about like epic relic combos right now because it's just like, well, not a lot of people have a bunch, and the chance of you getting two that really combo together is just kind of rare.
Yep. Okay, I think we're gonna have to go over this last one quickly, but there are some new powers added to the
Yes.
game now too. I wanted to ask about your experiences with them. I'll tell you about mine as well. I mean, it's hard to find these new powers. So I've only had them maybe like once or twice each, but I think I can kind of say my first impressions for those, and I'm kind of curious about your first impressions as well. Let's start with the legendary ones. Have you gotten to try Undying Legion yet?
Yes. So whenever I was trying to do, it was kind of funny because I didn't actually expect that I was going to be able to get Undying Legion for a while
Yeah.
because Undying Legion is one of those like it's a legendary. It just feels really hard to pull. Like sometimes like if you're not sure about anything. But no, I pulled it. It was one of my like level ups for like you know how like whenever you're trying to like level up with like the 3-star adventure or higher for
Mm-hmm.
the spirit forges, like the where you're getting the epic relic slot. Well, I did it and I got it on that one, and I gotta tell you, it was really fun.
Yeah.
They fixed the wording from patch notes. It's just a one revive, not double revive.
Okay. I didn't even
This
notice that.
might be one of the strongest legendaries.
Yep.
It's really disgusting because keep in mind when you revive, it's not stunned. It's not like deathless. Your ally just revives itself, and yes, it is only the first time an ally dies each round, but you have a lot of power in which ally revives first,
Mm-hmm.
if you really need to, and it felt really good. Like I was already steamrolling the Aurelia adventure, but man, oh man, did it feel good to steamroll her even harder. But yeah, no, that was a really good one. I've only pulled it once. I don't know if you've pulled either of the legendaries yet,
Oh
but
yeah,
I've
yeah,
only
I
pulled
have.
that one
Yeah,
once.
Undying. I can't remember if it's once or twice. It is one of the strongest powers in the game. I think it's just a little bit. I don't think it's as good as Duplicate and Perfected Mana Flow. I think it actually might be as good as Mana Flow and stacked against them. Like that's how crazy good this is. There's just so many stupid things you can do with this. I was using it to abuse units that had rally on them, so that I'm rallying like
Yeah,
3 times on a turn, and it's like that's ridiculous. I was using it, like you said, on big units or champions with come into play effects. I remember I was using it with Thresh with the hymn, so that I was getting even more Hymn of Valors and just kept stacking it on a unit. It was ridiculous. It is top five powers I think in the game, which is very impressive because the top five is a pretty loaded stack.
oh, I would agree. And I haven't gotten unlimited power yet. I don't necessarily.
Okay.
The unlimited power is going to be more of a meme power. I feel like it's going to be one of those ones where it's going to be fun to use, but it's not necessarily going to be as strong unless you have like a
So
champion
I've got it
that needs
twice,
it.
and you just hit the nail on the head.
Yeah,
It's a meme power. It is very strong if you get lucky, and it is not easy to get lucky with this power. I've gotten it twice. One time, it did basically nothing. It did basically nothing. Like I think all it
right.
did
Yeah,
was my first dark binding was cost 0, which is nice. I mean, like don't get me wrong, but sorcery does the same thing, so it wasn't really anything that special. But the second time I got it was really funny because I ended up getting the Tryndamere spell, the +8/+4, and I was like, okay, this is pretty strong. I get to play like a 10/6 on turn one. Yeah, that's pretty good.
yeah, right. And that's where it's just like it's kind of a lot of variance and
Yep.
stuff. Whereas a lot of these other lower level powers, you're going to see a lot more, right?
Yep.
So because obviously they're
Yeah.
not
So I
legendaries.
agree with you. I think it's a meme. Like that's not saying it's bad. It's just you if you want to roll the dice, you can roll the dice. It is fun, but if you low roll, it does very little. But it's not terrible, but it honestly doesn't feel like a legendary. But I mean, they can't really put it in as an epic because it shouldn't be showing up that often because it's so memey.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think it should show up that often. And but I will say, in terms of some of the other powers, um, some of the ones that I've enjoyed since I've been playing a lot of Slay Champions
Mm-hmm.
with the Thresh and the Mordekaiser runs. So Easy Prey, great
Yeah.
addition. I love it. Getting two summoned husks right at the start feels good for not only for Disciple but also for just Slays. Like just getting Slays out, getting Deaths out. Like for Mordekaiser, it's just nice because you get kills on your units faster. For Thresh, it's really nice because you can wait like a turn, and if you have Disciple, you can just play them. Whereas even if you don't need to wait, that's still two ally deaths, and then you can still play them, right? So it feels really good no matter what.
I
So I think
love
it's a
this
great
power.
addition.
When I first saw it, I thought it would probably be a rare, and then when they said it was a common, I was like, oh my god, this might be busted as a common. I don't think so. I think it's a very very strong common, but I don't think it's like busted for a common, and it's just such a perfect power for so many different champions. And it never feels that bad if you're forced to take it. Like if it just comes up in a shop and you don't really have any rerolls, it never feels bad to take it. And there's some champs that really love it. So I love this power. I love it. It might be actually my favorite power in terms of just how accessible it is and how much it does for specific champions.
Yeah, I mean it's a free two stats, right? And it's free two
Yep.
slays as well, and it's a common, so it's not like you need
Yeah,
to
I
really
think I
worry
think the
about.
thing I like about it is it never feels bad. Like there's a lot of
Right? Yeah,
commons. There's a
exactly.
lot of commons where it's like I don't want to grit. Like what do I want to grit for? It's like, but like you like there's no deck that you wouldn't want to pick this up for if you didn't have a choice. Like if you had no rerolls, it's like yeah, I'll take that. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that that's a great example. Now I just want to kind of run through some of the other ones.
Yep.
Big Ol' Dust Stash
Mm.
is the one where when you summon a create ally, you grant it +2/+2. Really interesting interaction for me personally was I was playing it with Mordekaiser, and technically, whenever Mordekaiser revives an enemy champion, it counts as a created card. So
Okay.
you always get a +2/+2 buff on a revived champion or like a revived anything, which is really really interesting that that's considered a created card. But that makes Big Ol' Dust really strong in those kind of scenarios. Obviously, there's a lot of other scenarios where it's really good, but that's really the only scenario I've been able to test it out in so far.
I've only gotten it once and it was really late in the run, so I never really got to experience it that much. It seems really strong. So I think
It's
it's
strong for the decks that use it. Yeah.
I think it's gonna be like when I put it in the tier list, I think it's gonna be above Yip's Genius. It feels very similar to it, but just a little bit different.
It's
So
better.
which is like Yip's is I already have pretty high, so it's gonna be like basically a top 20 powers for sure.
Oh yeah. And then just to kind of finish them out,
Yep.
there's two that are kind of similar, but
Mm-hmm.
I still kind of like that they're differences.
Mm-hmm.
Phantom Pranks, when an ally dies, deal one to the enemy nexus. Always nice.
Mm-hmm.
Just like it. There's some decks that it doesn't feel very great on, but it's just like in general, just nice to have that like little bit of extra ping damage. Inheritance, when an ally dies, grant its power to a unit in hand. Absolutely absurd.
Mm.
This thing is disgusting. Like if you play a high unit deck, right? Not a low unit deck. You have to be playing a high unit deck. Um, Getting that those like the amount of power buffs onto one champion, especially with champions that summon ephemerals a lot. So like Gwen, MF, like those kind of champions, oh my goodness, you're
Yeah.
getting free stats for your cards. Like
Yeah.
it's free, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. The Phantom Prank is interesting because I don't like it that much. I don't think it's that great. Like it's not bad. I just don't think it's that great. And it's like it's funny because it's a rare and it's better than both Explosive Entrance and Spellburn, which are epics. So kind of
I
funny
don't know if
that
it's
way.
better than an explosive entrance.
You don't think so?
No. So the reason why I don't think
Okay.
so is because you're always it's anytime you summon a unit, so you're actually always going to get that proc the same
Okay.
way.
Okay.
You know what
Fair
I mean?
enough. Yeah.
And so I think that it's better than Spellburn though. Spellburn's not an epic in my opinion.
Yeah.
It like the amount of path the champions run to take as many spells as they do units is just so
Yeah.
rare. Like you're always playing units more often, so I feel like it's a little bit stronger.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't I think
Okay.
Phantom Pranks is stronger than Spellburn, but
Okay.
I
Okay.
would
You know
kind
that.
of
You know what?
yeah.
That makes sense. But I mean, they're still pretty like low down on the list for me.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Inheritance is a very interesting one. I feel like my experience with it is if you like Raiding Party, and like who doesn't like Raiding Party, but if you like Raiding Party, Inheritance is Raiding Party on like steroids. It's just like, yeah, you want to have like some really big units in hand, there you go. And it's like you said, like it definitely, I do feel like it is a bit more deck specific, but holy crap, does it get crazy in some of the decks.
I think the one interesting thing about Inheritance though is it actually it combines really well with the one that gives like Titanic units +8/+8.
Oh
It
my
combos
god,
really well with
I
that
I
power.
I didn't even think of that. I haven't had that
Yeah,
one
I've
yet.
gotten it a couple times, and
Oh my
whenever I get it
god.
with that power, oh my goodness, it's so absurd. Because like once you get one out with that, if that unit
Oh,
ever dies, that next unit's Titanic, and then that unit's Titanic. So it's like you
oh,
can't never not get the buff once you
oh
start to
my
get the
god,
buffs
that
rolling.
sounds insane.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's a really good. I've been loving the Inheritance. It opens up a lot of doors, especially whenever you consider that like for the champions and like units that already have like high attack damage that just want even more attack damage. It's perfect for them. But also for the units that have high health but not a lot of attack damage, it's perfect for them too because now they're also going to get the attack damage as well as having a high health pool, right? So it's like it's not a bad power. Like I like there's probably some better ones for some decks, but like it feels like it's never like that terrible of a power. So I really like it. I really like it. I think it's a good addition.
Yeah, I think the only other one is Deep Cuts. That's the one that gives the opponent a curse Icor in their hand that basically burns them if they don't pay the tax. I like this one actually. Believe it or not, I actually think this is better than Phantom Pranks. It tends to do more damage and it's pretty easy to proc. It is a weird one though. It is just literally straight burn. So there's some decks that like don't care so much because you're just gonna OTK them regardless. But any deck that is kind of like more like chipping them down anyways, it accelerates the game plan. So even something like a Morgana, I find that I mean you're already trying to clog their hands, so it's even more clog for them, and it's really nice.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, I think the one thing that's really interesting about the summoning the Ichor in the hand is like, it just seems really interesting to me because a lot of decks work with it, and I think that actually, besides Inheritance, that might be the one I've gotten the most,
Hmm.
and it never feels bad, even on the champions that don't Nexus Strike a lot, like even on something like Mordekaiser, where it doesn't always feel like I'm getting Nexus Strikes off
Hmm.
because like I'm just focused on slaying things first felt fine, like felt great, you know. And so it's kind of an interesting feeling of like, Iker never feels that bad, and like I am kind of curious to see how it's going to feel on somebody like Samira. Like on Samira, something like that is going to be ridiculous because it's just like you're getting so many Nexus strikes off. Like you know, Jax is another example. Like Lurk with Pike.
I want to
Like
try them
you
with
know,
Boros.
right? Yeah, even with Poros, it's going to be so strong. And so I think that Icar is one of those ones where like it gets to a point where like your opponent can't play it.
Yeah.
Like if you have enough Nexus strikes, right? Which like with enough pings. So like if you have one that has like a very high unit count or can rally a lot, getting those pings out with like because you need a Nexus strike. You can't just damage the enemy Nexus. Like you can't play like Kindred, right? And then get like wait 3 turns on the prey, and then all of a sudden you've got triple Icar in their hand. Like that's not how that works. You have the Nexus strike, which does make it a lot more balanced. But
Mhm.
like for champions that do Nexus strike well, it's even stronger.
Yeah, I like these new powers. I feel like most of them do something interesting. I do feel like Phantom Pranks does have the overlap with the explosive and the spellburn, but I think the other ones like feel very unique. Even like easy prey. Like You would think, well, we already have these game start units. No, 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 no. It feels very different. It's more of a tempo boost that invests into a tall unit rather than wide, which is actually quite different.
Yeah, no, Husks are a completely different environment than getting free, just standard units on summon. I think that Husk have a lot more like they have a different game plan, and it's actually huge. By the way, the Husk one, like
Yeah,
I don't think people realize like, say you have like a really early champion that you want to play, right? But that champion doesn't have a lot of health, right? And you're worried about removal. Well, say your champion has 2 health. Well, now it has four, right? Because you
and
played
there's a
into the
chance it
Husk.
has spell shield now too.
Yeah, exactly, right. And it's like you have spell shield, you have elusive, you have overwhelm. Like there's some really good buffs in there, and it's
Yeah,
like you're getting these for free. Like you don't have to do anything for them, and
yeah,
it's like yes, it's a power, but I genuinely think that it's quite a good one. It could
yeah.
probably be a rare. Like it's common is a little low for it, in my opinion.
That's what I thought. I thought it was going to be a rare, and then it came out as a common. And I was like, I'll take it.
Yeah, no, I'm very happy that it is a common though. I think it deserves the common, but I think it's just a strong common is what it'll be. But yeah, no, those are all of the different powers, the new epic relics that we talked about. We talked a little bit about the Wicked Harvest as well as the successes and failures of our monthlies. So yeah, I think that that's a perfect place to end it, don't you, Power Cuties?
I do, and I think this will almost certainly be the last CactiCuties for 2023. So I just want to wish yourself and everyone listening a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and hopefully next time we do our next podcast or soon after, we'll even have maybe a new region to play with as well.
Yes, that's right. What better way to end off the year with the happy holidays and everything like that? With then in the next coming year, hopefully, after enduring the cold, we get to endure more cold with the Pelican region, as well as our bitter hearts whenever we get absolutely crushed by Lysandra. But with that being said, thank you so much for joining me, Power Cuties, and we'll see you guys in the next time.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.